Now with these leaves over the road, you need to be careful because you don't know what's underneath of them. I can already tell it's really mucky. It just rained a little bit ago. Yep, like right here too. This bike handles it well. So I figured I'd come out here and give you guys an update. I sold my WR250R due to financial issues, so that's why you haven't been seeing any content for that. I still have a bunch of videos that I can bring up though that I haven't used for that bike yet. Maybe down the road I'll get another one, but I'm thinking at this point, with how good this thing is off-road, I might as well just get a dedicated dirt bike, something I could do real single track with. And I'll show you in a little bit here, I actually can do single track with this bike too, but after a little bit it gets a little tiring. But anyways, I just put knobbies on this thing for the first time. I've ridden this thing off-road before. Well, I guess I rode it here with just street tires, and I thought it was better than my old KLR 650 with knobs. So we'll see how it does with these, huh? I learned real quick you don't want to ride this thing with traction control on in the dirt. Now a lot of this section up here is really sandy, and that's where these really big adventure bikes are hardest to ride. Sand and mud, it's the two biggest downfall for the heavy bikes. This thing handles just like a big dirt bike. They weren't joking. You can see I'm in sand right now. The faster you go on sand, the easier it is. The more throttle you give her, the more she goes. As easy as that. I wasn't expecting this thing to handle this good with knobs though. I like it. It's great. More sand. More sand. Lots of it that time. Yeah, this is a nice little area to ride. I like it. Little public entrance for the river down here. I remember this, a little berm here being super, super sandy. Definitely keep the leg down for that. Yep, it's just as I remember. It's been a while since I've been out here. And then I remember there's a bunch of low-hanging branches I always hit my face on too. This bike is truly a dual sport. I know a lot of people knock its weight, but I mean, if you have any experience on a dirt bike or a smaller dual sport, this thing is amazing. It's so easy to ride out here in situations like this. Oops, slippery grass. Gotta be mindful out here. Sometimes trucks come out of the blue. Now, I'm gonna, just to demonstrate how well balanced this bike is, I'll go super slow through the sand. Most of it's covered up by wood chips, but here's a good spot that's nice and silky. Super easy on this thing. It just carries its weight so well. Little jump there. Hey, you can still tell it's a big bike when you go through the really soft stuff, but it hides its weight very well. Tomorrow I'm going to be taking it to Snake Creek, which is a little more intense of a off-road park. For the WR250R it's no issue, but for this thing, some of the hill climbs there are super rocky. It has me a little worried, and I guess that's one of the issues with these big bikes, is if you drop it or get caught underneath it in a wreck, you're really going to hurt yourself compared to a small bike like the WR. Oh, more sand. Easy, very easy. And that's the thing with this bike, is when it's upright, it feels like it's 350 pounds. But as soon as you get past a certain point of tipping, like that, as soon as you get past that point, there is no catching this bike, and you don't want to try catching it. You just want to try and get away from it as fast as you can. And I mean, you can tell this thing was like purpose made for just railing through the desert. Seems like it'd be really good for that. You hear guys knocking this bike's weight all the time and saying it's terrible off-road and this and that. It's not. You've just got to have the experience. I'm not, by no means, I'm not saying that I'm an expert rider at any level. I consider myself more of a beginner still. I got enough skill to keep myself going in single track without crashing, and that's about it. Oops, Sandy again. Nice. And then another thing with this bike is the power it makes is just so tractable. This thing just gets around so easy. It's hard once you break traction. I mean, this thing throws a hell of a roost, but beyond that, I mean, it just hooks up really well. You've really got to try to break the wheel free even with the traction control off. I have noticed that the spins are a lot harder to do on a big bike like this. Oop. Killed it. Can still do it though. What I got for tires was the Shinko 804, 805. Now, I had those on my DRZ 400 and my KLR 650. They didn't do so well on my DRZ 400. I imagine probably because it's a harder compound tire, set up for a lot more weight. But this bike and the KLR 650 works very well for those bikes. Hooks up really nice, it digs really nice, and with the DRZ I'd get a lot of sliding coming down if I was moving along the side of a hill. The back tire would be sliding out on me constantly, or going around a corner kicking the ass end out a lot. But this bike and the KLR don't do that. It digs really well. But standing up and riding this thing is just amazing how composed it is. It's way better than my KLR 650 was. It's much easier to handle. Whereas that bike felt top heavy and it just wanted to tip over everywhere you went. This bike is planted. I don't even have the suspension set up for my weight either, and I'm about 100 pounds over what the recommended rider weight is. For those of you that don't know, I'm 6'7", 280 pounds. And another thing people also knock is the front ABS not being able to turn off. Well, in off-road environments like this, especially sand, like what I'm riding, you don't want the front wheel locking up. Having the ABS it's nice for that. Only locking up the rear, you want to lock it up coming into corners, give it a fistful of throttle, and then come out of the corner. But you don't want to do that with the front. You're just going to wash out and crash. Yeah, like I said, this thing just hooks and goes. And then, as you'll see when I get back to my buddy's house, he has a tiny little section of single track made up. It just goes where you point it. It's pretty amazing. I never really understood the craze of these big bikes until now. If you like bikes that can kick the ass end out, though, this is one of them. Does that all day. This is one of those bikes you definitely want to keep your hand on the clutch, though. Yeah, it's a little sketchy. The wood chips actually make it a little unpredictable, because you still got some big sticks and big branches in there that throw you one way or the other. This is one of those bikes where I'm going to be wanting to test the capabilities of it constantly. Could be a good thing or a bad thing, though. We'll see. But with the knobby tires on it, it's a completely different bike. I love it. I wasn't too sure about this thing beforehand, but now I'm convinced. I really love this segment of ADV bikes. They really are just like big dual sports, and that has me wonder. Oh, it's really sandy. That has me wondering what that Tenere 700 is going to be like. If I can ride this thing this easily off-road, what's that thing going to be like? There are a few things about this bike, having owned it for a while, that I really don't care for too much, but like ease of access for the air filter specifically, and then get a little bit when it's cold specifically. I get a little bit of burping coming back from the airbox sometimes. It does it when it's warm every now and then too, but it doesn't happen very often. Really sandy here again. But it does well. And it hasn't given me an issue yet besides those, so. And plus, it looks like the Tenere 700 is more of a one-up bike type of bike, whereas this has a separate passenger seat, and I kind of like that more. Well, I should say a separate passenger seat that's raised up, sorry. So, my fiance, when she comes riding with me, it's a lot more comfortable for her on this bike than it would be on that 700. I don't think she likes riding along as much as she does driving the stuff though, so maybe getting her a motorcycle as well too. Yeah, this thing, I'm impressed with it. I'm thoroughly impressed. Handles much better than it's basically just, I've ridden a DR650 before, and I would go as far as saying this thing's basically just a DR650 on steroids. Ooh, really sketchy. Back brake. Here's a good chunk of sand. You give it some throttle and it's out. Oh, let's go through this. What is this? Is this mud? Yeah. Yeah, it's a fun bike. I never thought a bike this size could actually be fun in the dirt. Especially after having my KLR 650. I'm gonna have to start getting into some long distance trips now. Still need the boxes. But ever since coronavirus hit, I kind of put that on delay. So yeah, that's that. Let the fans run for a little bit. It's kind of a beast. Enjoyable. It's I didn't think the knobby tires would change it that much, but turns out they did. I don't know why they sell these bikes with street tires on them. It's the stupidest thing ever. But yeah, I like it. It's definitely a blast. And I just haven't had the time to ride this thing lately. It seems like all I've been doing over the pandemic is just riding single track with my WR. I only live a couple minutes away from work, so it's kind of a hassle throwing on all my gear to go to work. I don't want to ride to work without it. So that's that. And then yeah, so we'll see. Maybe I'll end up getting a dedicated dirt bike, or maybe I'll end up going back to another WR. That's something that's just going to have to happen in the future, though. Well, I suppose I'm going to head on out of here. I'll get over to my friend's single track so you guys can see this thing run on it too. It's actually, I mean, I can make many laps around it, no issues with this thing. So, alright. Here's the single track. And it's all sand too. He's got a nice little frickin' berm there. I can't even stand up because of all the branches. Yep, there's the pop. A lot of clutch work. It's geared pretty high. Oop, don't get stabbed. I think we need to do some more cutting. Get rid of that tree. I'm always so scared coming around this corner. Power hooks up really well. For a lot of these corners, you gotta be sitting down though. Yeah. Oh.